Jesus freak here. Ordinarily, given the way I've had things set up now, I'd probably do this video on Volcano Bible, but it's a little bit personal still, so I'm gonna just do it here and run it quick like I've been doing. And I've probably talked about it before, some of the stuff here. The main reason I wanted to split things off was because I felt that the nature of what I was doing had gotten to a point where I no longer felt that mixing the highly produced religious content with vlogging and unrelated material was wise, which I had been doing for years. Instead, though, I'd be putting it on its own channel. It would be seen as more of a corporate project with only one person in the body, as opposed to a personal project, because that's what I really felt it was. It's not me as me. But there's some limitations to what I'm doing, and there's reasons for those limitations. I'd like to be able to include, for example, a weekly message. There's two reasons I don't. The first is I know I can't do it. I don't have the writing skills, the organizational skills, mentally to do that. So I'd at the very least need someone else to actually write the messages. The second is that to take the authority of a preacher, I'd have to borrow the authority of another one, because I can't use my own. In other words, I'd have to be no more than the mouth. Someone else would have to write everything up and say, I'm just saying what they told me to say. And the reason for that being, I fail the sniff test. I'm not allowed to be any more than I am. And you might say, well, who's saying that you can't take on these kinds of ministerial roles? God is. And I've said this before. As we've all known, a people of the book have to accept the authority of the book. As Paul says, it's all given by inspiration of God. But he also says that someone who's going to head to church someone who's going to lead the flock. He can't lead the household of God until he's proven that he can lead his own. Has to have a wife, and only one, no divorces or whatever, and has to at least have raised, if not be raising, kids. And has to be respected in the community at large. I've had people say I'm a bit strict for saying that. And a lot of people say the pastors, they might even have ordinations that they don't meet that rule. So where does the rule come from? It comes from 1 Timothy and Titus. So I haven't established these rules at all. I might not agree with them, but I acknowledge the authority behind them. Because to disacknowledge the authority behind them would be literally disacknowledging God. That's why, although I'd like to include more stuff in my Sunday videos, I'd have to be able to reach out to a minister for that. And another thing about expanding my videos has to do with possibly licensing copyrighted content, something I've said a few times I'd like to be able to do. You're more likely to get okayed for that if the content of your channel is strictly, legitimately Christian and isn't a bunch of random stuff and a bunch of irrelevant old computer junk. So that's another reason I want to get that stuff out of there. December's videos will be up on both channels. And then starting January 7th, they will no longer be on this channel. They'll be on Volcano Bible. They won't be here. I've been torn about things. I don't know how to go about. I'm willing to pay licensing to use newer hymns in my videos. But CCLI, one license, licensing, they're a little too rich for my blood, given that I'm running this off no budget. And another issue is potentially expanding outside of my current English KJV readings. I'd like to expand into Spanish, but I don't have the level of free resources I have in English. I don't really even have a Bible translation I can use. If I were to get to the point Well, I could probably talk to Lockman, ask if, they'd grant that permission. Again, it'd be easier if I could say, this is just this channel. This channel is just a Christian ministry and nothing more. Which this current channel isn't. Volcano Bible is. They'd be more willing to say, yeah, you can do that. You can use more than the regular license does. Might even say you don't have to pay extra, although I expect they probably want a little bit of money for it. Which would be reasonable. Pay the workers due. Being able to use, now I've mentioned I'd rather use NBLA than Reign of Valera. Now Reign of Valera, the only variations of that I can use are 60 and 77, and those are copyrighted revisions. Anything older I can only find in ye old Spanish. Is not even in modern orthography. So it wouldn't be like using a KJV of this sort. It'd be like using a 1611 edition. So that's why I don't want to use older Bibles. Even the RV09. And I refuse to use versions handled by Ruckmanites, like the Gomez version. The NBLA, which, like I said, it's owned by the Lockman Foundation. It's a Spanish counterpart of the NASB. The reason I prefer that is ironically because it reads more like a King James than the Reign of Valera, which is considered to be the King James of the Hispanic world. Anyway, Jesus freak out.